I got two other questions that some people wanted me to ask you. And the first one was, what kind of research is being looked at regarding social identity, and what kind of role that plays in a child's upbringing? And I believe social identity, where they see themselves fitting within society. And obviously nowadays that has been changing so much.
Yeah. There is not a huge body of research on that because research tends to focus on things we can make quantitative. And that's very qualitative, your sense of some social identity. We've always studied the formation of personality and your sense of your autobiographical self, and your sense of who you are and your psychological development. But your sense of social identity is much more a sort of a Facebook age generation thing. That's much newer concept. So beforehand, the social identity would have focused on how others perceive you as being, and it wouldn't have had that whole digital element. Now it's far more complicated. Now a lot of people are more concerned about their digital self than they are about their real world self. Everyone puts on a mask. You put on a mask to be socially acceptable. You brushed your teeth today and you did your hair, and we're both refraining from swearing because we're on a podcast. Like everyone's, puts on a mask. That's just the nature of being. But then Facebook is another whole element to that social identity, and is a very complicated mask that we can manipulate a whole lot more. And you get a whole generation of people now that, like I say, seem to invest more in having a positive Facebook image than they do in having a real life image. So social identity. So that's a whole new body of research. So I can't pretend to be really super informed about that. The stuff that I know about is more about, the formation of your social identity. I have who I am inside me. And then you start to understand, we call it in the research theory of mind, you start to understand that other people have a different mind. And so you then start to realize also they've got a different perception of me. Everyone sees me with a different lens. So that's the start of your social identity. But I don't think that's what you're getting at, is what I'm saying. So the traditional literature looked there because we didn't have a social identity like Facebook and Twitter and the internet and stuff. It is new, this idea.
Far more complex. Yeah. I imagine back in the day it was like, I am a hunter or a gatherer. Can I provide for so-and-so? Yes, I can. Cool. But whereas now, there's so many more facets of it. Interesting.
We've always been shaped by our family and then our community. But I think this, with their social identity, is their family, their community, and their whole world. So that's different.
It doesn't sound healthy when you put it down on paper. And the last question was, and I guess it kind of ties down to the thing we were talking about before in terms of how adults can kind of shape their own behavior and sense of self. But the relationship between like the amygdala and the parts of the brain that can help stress, trauma, anxiety, and depression. If the lower part of the brain stays pretty much the same with its wiring from early childhood, and the upper part can be rewired, and I guess it comes down to choice. But what is what role do, first of all, antidepressants help with that, and what are the different ways with which healthy change can happen without using antidepressants, and what place do you see antidepressants actually playing in that role?
Right. Okay. Well, that's an easy, straightforward question.
Yeah, I know. I just realized like that's like a 20-minute question, Debs.
But it's breaking it into parts. It's like, first of all, you're right about the neuroplasticity being in the upper parts of the brain, but eventually the lower parts of your brain have some neuroplasticity. It's just that the lower in your brain, they go the less neuroplasticity. So once you've done these mindfulness and calming exercises and done yoga for 10 years, it has changed your lower brain. It's just that takes longer than your upper brain, which changes pretty quickly in relation to what you do when you exercise that self-control. Pretty much the first couple of sessions of yoga and you've started to change your upper brain. But you might have to be there for a few years before you successfully calm that lower brain permanently. But and then the role of antidepressants, that's a wee bit different because antidepressants go down to the micro, how the hormones work in the brain. Like you've got neural pathways, everything that you do is in a neural pathway. And halfway in the middle of that neural pathway, there's what they call the synaptic connection. But that's where it gets complicated because electricity is going down those pathways. But at the synaptic connection, electricity gets turned into chemical, and then the chemical swims across that gap and it goes to the other side and delivers the chemical, and the chemical gets turned back into electricity. Antidepressants come into that gap, It's called this synaptic cleft. But they go into that gap, and basically what antidepressants do is make the other side pick up more of the happy hormones.
Right.
It leaves the hormones there for longer. Usually when you pump out positive hormones on that side, the receptors on the other side, if it picks them all up, you'll be happy. If the receptors, if they only pick up half of them, you won't be as happy.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got in your brain little recycling things that come in, and it's when you've released the happy hormones, and that might only give you a couple of seconds, and the recyclers come in and go, right, we're taking that away now. Antidepressants stop the recyclers going in. So the hormones stay in the synaptic cleft for much, much longer, so the receptors have time to pick up all of them. Mm-hmm. And that much more increases the person's chance of then getting all the happy hormones. So that's how antidepressants work. And when they've got much more happy hormones, then that's probably going to help to calm the lower brain and keep their frontal cortex engaged. Your lower brain and your upper brain, it's good to think of them as being on a set of scales. Only one's really up and active. Scales have to be in relation to each other. When one side's up, the other side's down. Mm-hmm. If you really want the cortex to be up and engaging all of that good, higher empathy and higher intelligence, you need your survival brain to be nice and calm, because your survival brain's actually in charge. So when someone fires a gun behind you, it doesn't matter how interested you are in what you're doing, mm-hmm. automatically the survival brain takes over because it's in charge. And when that gun goes off behind you, for the next few seconds, you don't know what your middle name is or anything, because that you don't have access to your cortex. You're in your survival brain.
Mm-hmm. In that state of shock.
Yeah.
And what do you think, what do you recommend is like the most... I think there definitely is a place for antidepressants, but like, let's say somebody is...
Absolutely. Saves people's lives, antidepressants.
Totally. Yeah.
It's just that you don't... people always want to have an extreme view on that. You're either really, really against them, mm-hmm. Which to me just seems silly. Like, you're really, really against toothpaste.
Right.
Like, it goes against the natural order of things, because the natural order of things is that you should get plaque on your teeth and have them all rot and fall out. Yeah. We decide to go against the natural order and brush our teeth. So I think if you've got a brain that's not picking up the serotonin and you're living a miserable life, it's just common sense to get a medication for that helps. It's just that, if you stay being medicated, I don't think that's a solution either. You'd really like to use your neuroplasticity to train your brain back into doing things within your lifestyle, like exercise and positive social contact and good self-talk inside your head. Get those practices running so that you don't need the medication, because you're doing it through the environment. Because there is the danger, if you just go on the pills, it tells your brain that they can shut down the happy-making factory because you're exporting it from outside. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you use the medication as a means to then put supports around the person to get a healthy lifestyle going, so that they can hopefully be weaned off the medication. But there will be some people that in their gene pool that they inherited, they just got it so strong that they're just going to need medication for the rest of their life. Everyone's in a different place on that spectrum, but absolutely you can overuse medication. Absolutely you can just be lazy and go to medication without bothering to try even adjusting your bloody diet or making sure the person's getting enough sleep and stuff. But that doesn't mean that medication's all bad. It's just about approaching these things intelligently and sensibly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just being, coming at it. Yeah, I totally agree with like the idea of it being it is a leveler, and then it gets people up to then building other things. It's just, I think a lot of people's hesitation comes from it just being the only thing. And it's like, I just take, antidepressants and I'll be good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yay. All right. I'm done.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's not good. They, worry about suicide statistics because New Zealand's got the highest rate for teenagers. So, they can have a knee-jerk reaction, which just goes, to be on the safe side. We'll put them on antidepressants. And no one's talked about you're very overweight. What sort of exercise are you doing each day? Because it's much harder to maintain positive mental health if you don't do any exercise. It's already putting your brain on the back foot. And it doesn't mean everyone's got to become a bloody gym bunny and do aerobics and stuff. It can mean just working out that you rearrange your schedule so you walk the half hour to and from work each day now rather than taking the bus.
And it sounds like such
you
a
just incorporate it into your lifestyle.
Yeah, and it sounds like such an easy, just run, but I feel like exercise is one of the cornerstones, for me at least, of just being a mentally healthy person. I'm not saying I'm happy all the time, but I'm definitely more capable of not slumping into bad habits and stuff like that. But
and the research supports that, and everyone else will see that, and I'm the same. But my temperament is quite lazy. I was not the sports playing kid at school. I was in the drama club and the debate team. I was the fat kid at primary school. So I know it's good for me, but it's not in my temperament to want to be physically active. Remember we talked about temperament earlier? You can measure that physical activity in newborn babies. Some babies do not stay still. They're fidgety. Other babies, maxed out. That's one of those, I say to audiences, you can get an idea of your traits. Like imagine yourself on holiday by the pool, right? You're on a tropical island, palm trees, you're at the pool, right? Put yourself there at the pool. And then I say to people, okay, so who put themselves in the pool? Who was actively swimming? Half the people put their hands up. Now, I didn't tell people whether they're in the pool, what they were doing. So the fact that you people automatically in your visualization had you doing something active suggests that you have an active temperament type. Who put themselves lying on a lounger drinking a pina colada? Because I never said to do that. And the other half of the audience inevitably put their hands up. So I'm thinking, oh, you've got a temperament less focused on physical activity. And I think I'm very much that latter type, less focused, but I still get the benefits of physical exercise. That's why I say ritual about walking to work and walking back, of taking the stairs instead of the lift, incorporate it into your normal life, and it becomes normal to take the stairs instead of the lift. You adjust quite quickly, and then you're not thinking about it. It's not taking any self-control, because it's just part of your routine. Because it takes a lot of self-control to go to the gym, to get dressed for it and do it. Whereas if you can, I think I just like this parenting that I just, always tried to make sure that I lived in a house that was about 4 or 5 blocks from the kids' school. So it wasn't too far for them to walk, but it wasn't too close. They just didn't think of it as exercise. They just thought of it as going to school and getting home from school. But they were walking 5 or 6 blocks each way, and that's good for their mental health. It's not the be all and end all, but it's another tick factor in that physical exercise stuff. So yeah, routine, ritual, that's the key.
Routine, yeah. Well, hey, Nathan, mate, thank you honestly so much for taking time out of your day for this. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you?
You go to nathanwallace.com is my webpage, and it's got a calendar on there that says when I'm speaking. So you can sort of just type in the name of the place you're at, and it'll come up and tell you when all the speaking engagements are. That's probably a bit light at this time of the year because people start, we're running out of this year, but for next year. And I've got lots of stuff on YouTube, lots of little clips about sort of commonly asked questions of people. And I know people don't have lots of time to listen to big, long podcasts like this. So they often want a 7-minute answer. So I put clips of less than 7 minutes, lots of them on specific questions on YouTube.
Nice. I'll link off to that as well in the show notes. But hey, dude, thank you so much for coming on. And
cheers, brother. Thanks for
catch you around. See you later.
Okay.
Thank you for watching that clip. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that subscribe button on the left. And if you want to watch the full episode, hit the square on the bottom. To watch another small clip, go ahead and hit that square on top. And if you just want to listen to the full episode but don't have time to watch it, you can find this podcast wherever podcasts are listened to. Thanks. Bye.